What's up, ESO fans and fellow Nightblades? My name is Griffith, and today I'm going to be going over my 1 to 50 leveling build as well as some general leveling tips. I'm going to start by discussing some general tips and tricks to keep in mind while leveling. Following that, I'll be taking an in-depth look at the build itself, and finally, at the end of the video, I will give a demonstration of the build in action. Alright, so let's start with the tips. Tip number 1 is questing. Questing is, without a doubt, the quickest way to level in Elder Scrolls Online. And if you're trying to crunch out some levels quickly, it is what you want to be doing. Tip number 2 is skill point acquisition. There are a ton of ways in this game to get skill points. However, during the early stages of the game, you're going to find that they're going to feel somewhat rare. You're going to be unlocking tons of passives and active abilities that you're going to want to grab, and it's going to seem like you just don't have enough skill points to get them. So, make sure you always keep an eye out for sky shards, and if you want to make the most of them, I would recommend using the Tamriel Foundry interactive map just to make sure you don't miss any. I also highly recommend doing the 4-player dungeons as you unlock them. Each awards you a good portion of XP as well as a skill point. The third tip is on the topic of consumables. Do not neglect your potions or food. These things can save your life as they have mine many times, as well as give you great buffs to make your leveling experience easier. So for those that haven't done this yet, I'm just going to take a brief moment to show you how to quick slot your consumables. So basically, you enter your inventory, and in the top right, you'll see this little arrow. It says quick slots. Click on that, and then you can take your potions, drag them over into a quick slot. Here's some food I'm using. Increases max health and stamina by 259 for 1 hour. Basically, and how you switch to these is you're going to want to. My quick slot button is 4, so I'm going to want to hold that, and then select whichever consumable I want to use. Let's say I want to use a health potion, then I'll just rest on that, and then I'll click it once to actually use the health potion. Alright, so for the last tips and tricks I have here, just make sure you use the area loot feature. This is going to, when you kill a bunch of mobs at once, it's going to make looting them a lot easier and quicker. And do not forget to repair your armor. In Elder Scrolls, the durability works a little differently than most MMOs, where you have the full effect of your armor, and then you have this durability that slowly degrades as you're fighting or dying or whatever else. And then when it finally reaches 0, your gear breaks. In Elder Scrolls, your armor is being reduced. Your armor is your durability. So as you're losing durability, as you're losing, as you're fighting and dying, your armor is decreasing. So you really want to repair a lot to make sure that you're not running around with 0 armor and just getting, wrecked by mobs. Alright, so now let's go over the build. So we can start with the tribute points. Don't really take this to heart here. This is just some crazy stuff I was doing. Not really, paying attention to this. At launch, I'm going to be making a red guard. So what I'm probably going to be doing is either one of two things. I'm going to go 49 into health and then gear for magicka, or I'm going to go 49 into magicka and then gear for health. I shouldn't need much of, or really any points into stamina as a red guard, being that all my passives are stamina based. Alright, so let's look at the armors. So I'm going to be running mostly medium for mine. This build really benefits from that the most, but you could also run mostly light maybe and get away with that. But I'm probably going to be running about 5 medium, 2 light. I might throw in a piece of heavy armor and run 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy, or 3 medium and 2 light, 1 heavy, just to level this up as I level. In case I want to use it later on, I'm not really sure. As far as the ability bars go, alright, so my first ability bar is filled with Strife, Swallow Soul. This is pretty much my main form of self-healing, so obviously you put this on the target and it heals you for 25% of the damage inflicted every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. Secondly is Teleport Strike with Lotus Fan morph. Now what I use this for, Lotus Fan is counted as a stealth attack. So if I go in from stealth on a pack of enemies and manage to get behind or hit most of them from the back, it's going to stun and do bonus damage to a wide range of enemies versus just stealth attacking one. So that's what I use this for, in combination with Whirlwind with the Steel Tornado morph. This basically, it's almost like a AoE execute. And with the Steel Tornado morph, essentially just increases the radius of it from I want to say it's 5 meters by default, and then the Steel Tornado increases it obviously to 12.5. So pretty huge radius on that, and this is basically what I would do for AoE packs of mobs, big groups of mobs. I would say at least 3. If it's 2 mobs or less, I'll probably just go and single target them down. Anything above 3, I'm going to use the Lotus Fan Whirlwind combination. Alright, so this is Twin Slashes with the morph of Blood Craze. This is a pretty significant bleed attack that also recovers me health every 2 seconds while it is active. The final active ability here for this bar is Flurry with the morph of Rapid Strikes. This hits really freaking hard and increases my attack speed by 18% for 6 seconds after I use it. Both of these abilities, or all 3 of these abilities right here, are in the dual wield tree, and that is actually the weapons I'm running on this bar. The ultimate for this bar is the Deathstroke morph Soul Harvest. Now Deathstroke deals a ton of damage, costs almost no ultimate at all, and builds extremely quickly. So the Soul Harvest morph actually makes it build even quicker. So I use this for just basic overworld pulls, two to 3 mobs, 1 mob. And you can probably in a pack of 3 you could probably use this thing like 3 times. It builds that quickly. But this is the bar for my dual wield, and I use this for AoE and overworld content, things like that. I'm going to go more in depth on how I utilize these bars after I finish discussing the bars themselves and the passives associated with them. This is my bow bar. On my bow bar I have Strife again, Leeching Strikes. Leeching Strikes, what this does is, while it's toggled, my basic weapon attacks restore 4% magicka and stamina, but it does reduce my damage. Which you would think, 22%, that's pretty significant, but it's really not that bad for the perks you're getting from it. But it also has a 10% chance on basic weapon attacks to restore 15% magicka and stamina, which is huge, and it procs a lot. So the other morph to this is Siphoning Attacks, which is just as viable. The Leeching Attacks adds a 4% health restoration effect as well, to go with the magicka and stamina on each, basic and heavy, light and heavy attack. The other morph, Siphoning Attacks, it does not come with the health restoration, but it gives all of your attacks versus just your light and heavy attacks a 10% chance to restore 15% magicka and stamina. So they're both really strong. I'm even considering going back to the other one. Leeching Strikes obviously gives you slightly more survivability, but the other one you can just, you'll be able to be spamming abilities like crazy with the amount of restoration from magicka and stamina you're going to have. So there's that. The third ability here is the Shadow Cloak morph, Shadowy Disguise. This gives me invisibility for 2.7 seconds, and the morph grants me 100% critical strike rating for the duration. Now I use this basically as both a defensive and an offensive mechanism. Now if you pair this with these 2 passives right here, Refreshing Shadows and Shadow Barrier. Refreshing Shadows increases stamina regeneration by 30% for 6 seconds when a shadow ability is active. Or activated, excuse me. And then Shadow Barrier increases armor and spell resistance by 1750 for 4 seconds when coming out of stealth or invisibility. So I can use this very defensively. So I can pop this if I'm getting hit pretty hard, and I'm going to get a pretty significant amount of armor and spell resistance increase when I exit the stealth effect. Also, it's a great way to regenerate stamina. When you're running low, just pop a quick Shadow Cloak off, and you're going to have 30% increased regeneration for the next 6 seconds. So this is a really, really strong ability for Nightblades, and I recommend that every Nightblade use it. I mean, it literally spazzes out mobs. If you're fighting 3 mobs and you pop this, they just stand there. It's an amazing ability. And when you use it in combination with this ability, which is Veiled Strike with the Surprise Attack morph, it becomes even stronger. So what Veiled Strike does is it's a pretty decent damaging ability, and if you are stealthed when you use it on the target, that target is then stunned for 4.3 seconds. The Surprise Attack morph also adds an armored penetration effect of 40% to the ability, which is also great. The final ability I have here is my main form of CC for when things get hairy, and that's Magnum Shot, which is the morph to Scatter Shot in the bow skill line. Now, the damage on this is mediocre at best. However, the effect is amazing. So, Scatter Shot generally, just by default, it disorients the target that you hit it with, knocks them back a little ways, and then disorients them. The Magnum Shot morph now also, it knocks them back and disorients them, as well as knocks you back, creating even more distance. So, I like to use this. This whole bar is generally set up for the harder mobs in the game, the world bosses, the public dungeon bosses, and all that. Now, the ultimate here is Veil of Blades, which is Consuming Darkness morph. This creates an area of darkness around me and slows enemies significantly, 70%, does magic damage to them, and reduces the damage I take by 60%, as well as my party members by 30%. So this is my I win button, save me button. This is what I pop when things are getting really ugly. And again, this whole bar is really what I would be using for world bosses and public dungeon bosses and stuff like that, where these guys are going to be hitting me really hard. I got to keep them away from me. I got to keep them CC'd, and if I am going to go in, I got to throw down a Veil of Blades to reduce my damage taken, so I can actually take their hits. So now let's basically go into the passives. I mean, there's not much to be said here. You want as many passives as you can get your hands on. Obviously, like I said, skill points, they're going to seem a little rare early game, so don't necessarily go too crazy over, don't pick so many passives that you don't have enough skill points for active abilities, obviously. But you want as many of these as you can get. As you can see, I have every single one in Siphoning, every single one in Shadow, except for the rank 2 of this, which I haven't unlocked yet. Stealth, this, I should have this. I should totally have this. I just don't. Like I said, skill points are not as common as, early game as you would like them to be. Obviously, there is over 300 skill points acquirable in the game, so, after spending a certain amount of hours in the game, you will be able to get pretty much whatever you want. But, you want all your passives. This is my dual wield, so I have every passive here. Bow, almost every passive here. Your armor passive is very, very important, as well as your racials, also very, very important. So that's pretty much what I'm running on my bars. It's a dual wield bar and a bow bar. The dual wield is for overworld single target as well as AoE. The bow bar is for single target and survivability. So now I guess I'll go ahead and give you a demonstration of how these bars are utilized. So here we got a pack of wolves. There's about 4 or 5 there. Now this is an AoE encounter for me. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my positioning to where I can at least hit 2 of them with my Lotus Fan stealth opener. So I'm going to Lotus Fan in, and essentially I'm just going to spam Whirlwind. Whirlwind is like an AoE execute, so it's just going to melt faces. And that's pretty much how I AoE. So I'll go ahead and show you how this works. Go ahead and get this pack too. You know, so there's that. Keep in mind that, you know, this is VR level content, so this works now. In a couple of VR zone levels, it's probably not going to work. The mobs get increasingly more difficult, but this does work amazingly well for 1 to 50. So anything, you know, prior to this, like I said, I'm VR 2, and this is a VR 1 public dungeon, so anything prior to this is going to work, you know, beautifully well. But I'm going to go ahead and clear out some of these guys. There's a little bear boss over here in a cave on the right, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of my bow bar. Probably should have regen some stamina there before I went in, but not a big deal. Alright, so for some reason, the bear I was trying to kill just didn't want to spawn, so I decided to come to the veteran rank 1 zone that I'm currently working on and solo a world boss here. So here we go. Go ahead and put on leeching strikes and start killing. Now, yes, these are just normal little crabs, not too difficult, but the actual boss spawns after I kill a bunch of these dudes. And there he is. This guy has quite a lot of health, as you can see. So what I'm gonna do here is as soon as I get my ult up again, I'm going to drop it on him and then switch to my dual wield bar to finish him off quicker. Though I might kill him before I get it. Alright, so there you have it, guys. That is this build in action. If there is anything else you guys want to see, or if you have any questions about the build or anything else, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. I do stream, and I will leave a link to that in the description. If anyone wants to come watch me, I'm going to be hitting the levels pretty hard come early access in about a week. Don't forget to head over to TamrielFoundry.com for all your ESO needs. This has been Griffith. Thanks for watching.